So thank you, Godfrey Santos Plata, running for you're running for state assembly, sorry. Could you tell us a little bit about your campaign, your district, where you are, and a little bit about your candidacy?
Sure, absolutely. First, I want to thank you, Mr. Royce, for holding this particular event. I live in a district, which I'll tell you about in a little bit, where most people don't even know what assembly is, honestly, or what our state legislature can do for them. And so I'm really glad that there's a space online like today to be able to speak specifically on a statewide level with other folks who are running for assembly, running for Senate. For folks who don't know me out there, my name is Godfrey Santos Plata. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm running for the California State Assembly in our 53rd district. For folks who don't have all the numbers in their head, that's Koreatown in LA, through MacArthur Park, Westlake, downtown LA, Boyle Heights, south to Huntington Park and Vernon. So right the heart of LA and its wings. If elected, I'd be the first person to be both an out member of the LGBTQ community and an immigrant. I'd also be the first Filipino person ever to represent the greater LA area, despite Filipinos being the largest API demographic in the entire state. And very possibly, I'd be the only renter in the entire 80-person assembly at a time where all of us know that housing and supporting unhoused communities are top issues in the entire state. A little bit about me and my background. I'm a Filipino immigrant. I moved here with my family in 1988. I grew up in our Los Angeles Unified and Long Beach Unified School Districts. My parents secured union jobs here, and that was able to move us into the middle class. Because of the education I received and because of the jobs that they had, I was able to get a full scholarship to go to college, where I solidified a passion for working toward racial justice, particularly through public education. I've been a 7th grade public school teacher. I had 49 students enter my first day of teaching ever, and just 35 seats in my classroom. I've had kids reading at the kindergarten grade level, taking a 7th grade test that they were held accountable to by the state. And I'll never forget, in that class of 49 students, I had a student, 12-year-old Latina girl, who was sitting in the back of the class. Other teachers had warned me that she would be extremely mischievous. I didn't want to get any biases in my head, but she was extremely mischievous even in the first week of school. She got out of her seat. She handed me a note in the middle of class. It said, "F you, Mr. Plata" on it. Did not say F on it. She ran out of the classroom. I poked my head out the hallway. I looked down the hallway. She was already gone. Because I was new to this school, I called the assistant principal to see what the protocol she would suggest is for this student who ran out of the classroom. And I will never forget the words that she said to me. And my assistant principal said, "Would you like to press charges on her?" The 12-year-old girl that I had just met for writing "F you, Mr. Plata," which you shouldn't have done, on a note. I was being asked to press charges on her immediately. And we know too well what happens with students who end up with criminal charges. I refuse to press charges for her, in particular for those reasons. And because of that experience and much more in education, I now work with teachers, students, and their families to learn how to organize and advocate for changes in laws and policies, not just ones affecting schools, but ones affecting our entire communities, because students and families don't leave their lives at the schoolhouse gates. They bring them into schools. And so I love what I do, but through organizing and advocacy, it's very clear that it's time that we get on the inside, and we need our voices on the inside at the table where other folks are making decisions, and we need to make direct impact in there. For example, I'm 36. I'm a renter in LA's Koreatown. My rent is 40% my monthly salary. I'm zooming in for my apartment right now. For too many of my neighbors, it's 50% or more. I walk to our metro station here in Koreatown. I pass luxury apartments that tower over encampments of unhoused neighbors. Our leaders continue to believe that housing is a commodity rather than a human right. And we've been led into a crisis where 150,000 folks are homeless in California during a pandemic, during wildfires. And thinking about where we are in this moment in history, our unhoused population is disproportionately Black for the population that we have in LA and LA County. Our unhoused neighbors face disproportionate levels of criminalization and policing compared with folks who are housed. So when we are serious about pursuing a less racist world, we have to be serious about ending all the ways in which white supremacy and anti-Blackness and racism permeate our lives. That's through the criminal justice system, housing, healthcare, public education, and even climate and environmental justice. Right now in California, we've been experiencing wildfires like we've never had before all over the state. We're in an international emergency to eliminate greenhouse gas emissions. My opponent is taking tons of corporate PAC money, including from big oil, despite what we know. He's tried to delay long-fought measures that would hold companies accountable to transitioning to their fuel-dependent work. His colleagues have yet to pass regulations that allow us to move toward a world in which we can fix this problem. We've survived millennia in this land until we made it like this. We're complicit in a system until we vote for people for whom housing and healthcare can be human rights, for whom our public schools can strongly serve every child, and for whom the colors Black and brown can refer to the beauty of people's skin, not the color of the air. And so that's why I'm running, because we know better, we deserve better, and we can do better. Like I said, I'm an immigrant. I have a 3-year-old nephew and a 1-year-old niece. They're the first folks in our family to be born here in the United States. I'd like to see them inherit a world better than the one we have now. And so again, my name is Godfrey Santos Plata. I'm running for California State Assembly in the 53rd District. You can follow #GoWithGodfrey. You can find out more about us at godfreyforassembly.com. You can donate, volunteer, and vote, of course, by November 3rd. Mail-in ballots are out now here in LA. You can check out lavote.net in the LA County area for your nearest vote centers and ballot drop boxes. Thank you all so much.
Okay, well, thank you very much. You know, that's been sort of a common theme here this morning with the state assembly candidates and state senate candidates is the housing problem here in California, which seems to be getting worse. Do you have anything specifically you think the state ought to be doing right now to address this?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. Thank you for that question. And especially for folks out there, I don't know if folks are in the chat box or whatnot. I'm happy to answer questions. Like I said, I'm a renter, and that is where I tackle this first and foremost. Part of the reason why we have increasing homelessness here in LA County and in California, despite us throwing billions of dollars at the problem, is we haven't solved the root cause of the problem. The root cause of increasing homelessness is the fact that we are pushing people out into the streets because of unregulated speculative real estate, especially down here in Los Angeles, where we live in the densest area west of the Mississippi. And rising rent costs that are going unchecked, especially in gentrifying areas like the one that I live in. And so first and foremost, I'd like to ensure a tenant's right to counsel. Lots of folks don't know that when you are processed into evictions, your building owners, your landlords take you to court. Unlike if I were arrested on the street and I would have access to public counsel in order to make sure that I understood what legal rights I had and all of that could navigate the court process. Tenants don't have that particular coverage. And so I want to be able to extend right to counsel to tenants who are possibly facing exploitation through their eviction processes that they're being pushed through. A second thing I'd like to do is to make sure that we are focusing on the 1.4 million affordable housing units that are in need right now in California. Lots of folks in the state legislature have been pushing the mantra of build, build, build. It makes sense that lots of our legislators want to make sure that we are providing roofs over the heads of as many people as possible who are missing that housing. What's not happening as folks are passing increased density bills is they're not devoting enough of that density to the actual affordable housing units. The percentages are actually really small. If you look city by city or county by county, because right now a lot of the regulations come down by municipality, it can be like 20% or below is what can be set aside for affordable housing. And with 1.4 million missing affordable housing units, that doesn't make sense to set aside just 20%, while everything else here in LA doesn't even go to market value, it goes above market value. We have high percentages of vacancies in various spots of the district that I live in, which includes downtown LA and here in Koreatown. We've built a lot of luxury housing. And while I can imagine that like the thought behind that is to stimulate the economy, provide a home here in downtown LA, in central Los Angeles, for folks who are visiting from afar, or for folks who are maybe doing great business here, what we're not doing is taking care of the people who need the most care.
Okay, thank you. We got a question that came in. Someone would like to know your position on Prop 16. And as you know, and as the attendees know, Prop 16 is the affirmative action amendment. Do you have a view on that?
Yeah, I do. I appreciate that question. So my view of affirmative action, and I know that this is where people have lots of different analyses. I'm supportive of Prop 16. The reason why I'm supportive of Prop 16 is because when we think about affirmative action, what it strives to do is get to a place in which people of all races, of all genders, are actually able to have equal opportunity to higher education. And right now they're not. What I know very intimately as someone from a K through 12 education is like we are disproportionately creating gaps academically and other opportunity wise with folks of color, specifically Black folks, but also Latino folks as well. There are giant gaps that form from a very early age. And so by the time folks get to the point where they're even looking at higher education, we're not actually offering an equal playing field at that point. I've gone to UCLA with many alum, and my sister went to UCLA and visiting the campus. There's this really awful game that people play called Count the Black People on UCLA's campus, because there are so few folks of African-American descent or Black folks on campus. I believe it's in the single digits. And Prop 16 hopes to allow for the opportunity to create admissions guidelines that allow for us to actually increase the number of folks from diverse backgrounds in higher education spaces, so that we're actually equalizing the opportunity at the point where all the years before that have failed to do so.
Okay, well, I want to thank you one more time. How do people get a hold of you if they want to find out more about your campaign?
Yeah, I appreciate that. You can go to godfreyforassembly.com. I can put that into the chat box now. Godfreyforassembly.com. There you can find your way to volunteer pages and donation pages, to our social media, to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I appreciate y'all's time. I know you're listening to lots of people between now and 5 p.m. I actually would really love to hear a synopsis of what you take away on trend for everything, but hang in there as you listen to person after person. And thank you so much for hosting this space.
Okay, thank you.
Cool, thank you.